We are seemingly about to experience one of the most fascinating managerial moves in the Championship in this or indeed recent seasons. John Eustace, manager of Blackburn, who are in the playoffs, is currently discussing terms to move to Derby County, who are in the relegation zone, with the transfer window having closed and a mere 15 rounds of football remaining. Let me know your thoughts right away if you're a Blackburn fan, if you're a Derby fan, for reasons we'll discuss, if you're a Birmingham fan as well. I will lay out my thoughts, but yesterday we heard the thoughts of the higher-ups at Blackburn, which made for a bit of car crash, if not fascinating reading over on Twitter or anywhere on the internet, really. This is what the Rovers higher-ups, which you would think this has come direct from Venky's, the much maligned, either reasonably or unreasonably, much maligned Blackburn ownership group there. Blackburn can confirm that head coach John Eustace has requested permission to speak with another Championship club, Darby, following the activation clause in his contract. We think it has been reported by people who know more than me that it's a £500,000 get out. So, I mean, we don't know the minutiae of that contract, but it seems a pretty good clause if you're John Eustace and not a great clause if you're Blackburn. But we'll talk about Venky's and the kind of contracts that they hand out as we go through this video. The club is extremely disappointed by John Eustace's request to hold discussions with another club at such a crucial stage of the season, but this has now been reluctantly granted. I mean, I started off this video by saying we are seemingly about to experience this. Given what that's just said, you'd assume this is happening if the Blackburn owners are kind of going all in and it's very public that he's discussing terms. You'd think we're just dotting I's now and crossing T's. With significant investment, Venky's or Blackburn go on to say, being made during the January transfer window, with 6 new additions, several of whom impressed during yesterday's FA Cup 4th round tie against Wolves. The board and ownership feel the club are in a good position to challenge for one of the playoff places this season. With the squad bolstered, key players returning from injury, and Rovers currently in a strong position in the Championship, the club and players remain focused on achieving the best possible outcome this season. The club will make no further comment at this time. So, what do people call it now? What's that trendy term? TLDR. The TLDR on that is Blackburn aren't very happy with Eustace. They think they can get in the playoffs and they think they've backed him. John Eustace obviously thinks differently. But look, before we get into the explanation, I think the thing that's triggering most people is the league table. Now, I will preface this by saying 90% of analysis you hear from people that is based on the league table is not great analysis. If that's your kind of big outlook for, you know, making comment on stuff, that's about as unnuanced as you can get. So I understand a lot of people have been annoyed with some of the reporting of this because they just look at the league table. And if you just look at the league table, you'll probably think John Eustace is an idiot. But as I've just said, if you just look at the league table and decide everything, then you're probably an idiot as well. No offence, anybody. But let's look at the league table. Let's make me an idiot. As the start of our conversation here, you can see there Blackburn in 6th with 45 points. Derby in 22nd with 28 points. The first comment I will make is I really study these league tables and I really study the Championship. Blackburn are statistically one of the worst 5th place teams you will see on the basis of the... So we did the points projection. They're going to come out at something like 66 point, or it was before West Brom overtook them. They're going to come out with 66 points, which doesn't get you in the playoffs in any of the last 10 years. So basically what we have is, yes, Blackburn are in the playoffs, but there's every chance that we're currently at a bit of a low tide, and a team projecting that amount of points is either not going to get in the playoffs or we're going to have an extraordinary low standard of points for 5th place and indeed 6th place, those bottom 2 playoff places. Also, what we can say about Blackburn is they are currently not in very good form. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 defeats in the past 6. We have got an FA Cup defeat in there as well. So there's a bit of a sense, in my humble opinion, that John Eustace has... can't say false position. That's not fair. We said this about Birmingham last season when they were in 6th. We're going to talk about Birmingham in a minute when we talk about Eustace. But there is a bit of a sense that Blackburn being in a playoff position is not the same as them being kind of odds on for promotion. They're not. If you study this league, you know that. If you're a Blackburn fan, you probably know that. They've got a good chance. You'd rather be 5th than 9th, wouldn't you? But have they got a better chance than Norwich or Middlesbrough, who are a couple of places below them, or Sheffield Wednesday or Coventry? You tell me in the comments. What we do know is that Derby's position is far less false, seemingly, than Blackburn's, if we're going to get into false positions. Derby have stunk the joint out through January and just sacked Paul Warren. I think they've lost 8 on the trot going into the got last-minute draw, didn't they, at Norwich? So, yes, on the one hand, you can look merely at the league table and conclude, without a great deal of nuance, that it would not be very sensible to move from 5th place to 22nd place. But even that basic bit of nuance says there's more to it than that. And there's way more to it than that. I think you kind of need to focus on why would Eustace leave Blackburn as opposed to why would Eustace go to Derby. I know they're both relevant factors in this. But again, it does come down to Venky's and ownership and the idea we're being peddled around that he's been sold a duff bill of goods. I don't know. You don't know. I don't know what the conversation was between Venky's and John Eustace, if there's any promises that are not public that have either not been made or have been outright broken. We can assume he's not happy if he wants to leave. It's not like, I don't know, the mega, like when Frank Lampard left Derby indeed to go to Chelsea, where you're like, well, he's just always going to take that job because he's a club legend and it's a massive jump up. It's not really like that when it comes to Blackburn. I do try and defend, especially foreign owners. I think some foreign owners are treated in a bit of a snobbish way by the English press. But Venky's have obviously been at Blackburn since they were in the Premier League, and they look like they've got very little hope of being a Premier League club again in the future, despite being in the playoffs and being in and around it. A lot of people say that's kind of in spite of Venky's and, I don't know, with good work done by Tony Mowbray in the past to get them close. And John Eustace is in there now. But again, that is with the great context that this is a low tide and there are other teams around there with seemingly better squads. Look, we may never be able to find out. Eustace could have got Blackburn into the playoffs this season. But look at the odds and you tell me it's no kind of certainty. Again, don't want to upset any Blackburn fans. He's doing a great job to have them there in 5th as things stand, going in to the midweek round number 32 starting tonight as I'm recording. There's been some weird things that Venky's have done lately, haven't they? I remember the likes of, God, who was let go for nothing? Who's the lad that's at Leeds now? Rothwell, his contract run down, didn't it? Brereton Diaz, they were worth good money and the contracts run down. Lenihan as well, they had good players. Let Tony Mowbray's contract run down. It was this weird situation with Mowbray going into press conferences literally saying, I don't know if I'm going to be the manager next season. That all seems strange. We know there's this ongoing thing, and Blackburn fans would know better than I about this, about Venky's struggles getting money out of India with some kind of government issue there. I don't know about that. Blackburn fans will know more about that. But none of it's great, is it? It was close last season. John Dale Thomason seemingly left at this time for similar reasons, and he was performing pretty well with that team that never drew a game, wasn't it? Yeah. And yeah, Smodix got a load of goals and Eustace kept Rovers up by the skin of their teeth, and everyone thought they'd really struggle this season. I predicted them to get relegated this season, and here they are up in 5th. So you can't really deny that against expectation of performance from last season's squad and ownership, for them to be 5th is really quite impressive. They're not 5th, are they? Sorry, they're 6th. Apologies if I've said they're 5th at any point in this video. They're 6th. They have been 5th until the weekend. You know what I am saying. So that's why he would want to leave. He would want to leave Blackburn. I think that's the main thing. And we can talk about Darby being a big club and having huge potential, and maybe Clowes moving the club, the owner there, onto, you know, wealthier investors. We can talk about Eustace having played for Darby before, but all of those things, you don't leave your current job unless you think you've got a better chance of success at the next job. And I personally think more of that is tied to Eustace wanting to get out of Blackburn than the massive allure of Derby. Again, big club. They draw 30,000 in the Championship, 30,000 in League One. But this is by no means easy down at the bottom of the table there. I know he did it last season and Blackburn escaped, but the sense with Blackburn is they were trending down. And just at the last minute, do you remember, they actually won at Leeds and at Leicester, two of the final top three, away from home as well, to escape. It was really, really tight for Blackburn, which actually relegated Eustace's former club, Birmingham, where we had that weird situation where Eustace himself was the sympathetic figure as he was taken out and replaced by Wayne Rooney, which is probably either equal to or certainly the second most interesting managerial move of recent seasons, if indeed this one goes through as we expect to today. It's going to be hard for Derby to stay up. I think Eustace is a really good manager and he gets his teams well organised and gets an impact out of pretty much everywhere he's been. We've seen that in the Championship at Birmingham and Blackburn. The issue I've got with Derby is they're in the bottom three and they're in there with Luton, who are stinking the joint out, but are a year one parachute team, have spent a bit in the transfer window, have changed their manager, and most people would argue have a better squad than Derby. Above Derby are Hull, who shouldn't really be down there. Similar story to Luton, where their squad is not a bottom four squad, and it's just been a gross underperformance and maybe the wrong man in Tim Volter starting the season there. Portsmouth were with Derby in League One. Derby fans will think they can finish above Portsmouth, but at the moment, Portsmouth are doing what Derby were doing earlier in the season and leveraging home form, scoring goals. Murphy, Lang, Bishop, the lads up top there, even Ritchie contributing there. Cardiff have had some trends up. Oxford have had the mother of all new manager bounces from former Derby manager Gary Rowett, and Stoke have got Mark Robbins and again a good squad. So Derby have got to get themselves above at least one of those clubs and keep Luton below them. So, I don't know. Is there a possibility that John Eustace could go into Derby and be relegated? Well, yeah. But is there the possibility that John Eustace could go into Derby and save them? Of course, yeah. He's a respected championship level manager who, as I say, has got an impact out of clubs really, really quickly. Let me know your thoughts. We're expecting this to go through, I don't know, today, tomorrow, if discussions are happening and Blackburn are kind of sounding off about it publicly, then you'd imagine, unless we get a collapse with the deal, which would, I'd know how that would sit with the Blackburn fans if Eustace, ends up staying the course and staying at Blackburn. I don't think that's going to happen, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Can you understand John Eustace wanting to leave Blackburn? B, can you understand John Eustace wanting to join Derby? C, can you understand John Eustace wanting to trade Blackburn for Derby, 6th to 22nd at this point in the season? And D, would you do it yourself if you were in his position? Let me know your thoughts down there in the comments. And we had John Eustace on the Championship Check-In podcast last season, just before he left Birmingham, actually. So check out that conversation with John there and me and Sam Parkin. And yeah, just let me know your thoughts on a fascinating potential managerial move. Eustace from Blackburn to Derby.